welcome to MOOC on Professional Communication Skills. This is the second module of the series titled Job Interview Skills. My name is Ritik Garg. I am a research scholar at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, MNIT Jaipur, and I will be your instructor for this module. So let's start. प्रोफेशनल वर्ल्ड में किसी भी जॉब में जाने के लिए जिस अंतिम चरण से हम गुजरते हैं उसका नाम है जॉब इंटरव्यू। इस मॉड्यूल के अंदर हम उन्हीं जॉब इंटरव्यूज के बारे में बात करेंगे, उनके डिफरेंट टाइप्स, उनके लिए क्या एटिकेट चाहिए, उनके लिए क्या टिप्स होने चाहिए, हम उन्हें कैसे प्रिपेयर करें, इन्हीं सब की बात हम इस मॉड्यूल में करेंगे। सबसे पहली यूनिट इसके अंदर है फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ जॉब इंटरव्यू, types, practices, and etiquette, in which we will be learning about the basics of job interviews. सबसे पहले हमें ये जानना होगा कि एक जॉब इंटरव्यू होता क्या है। What is a job interview? It is a two-party interaction between the people who are conducting the interview, called interviewer, and the person who is appearing for the interview, called interviewee. It has a specific purpose which is serious in nature. It is conducted to check the suitability of the candidate for the job profile the company is looking for. What does a job interview involve? It involves asking and answering questions for the purpose of obtaining information and to know whether a candidate is suitable for the organization and the job that they are looking for. हम अपनी लाइफ में बहुत से इंटरव्यूज के लिए बैठते हैं। अगर हम अभी कॉलेज में हैं तो हम कॉलेज में बैठने के लिए भी एक इंटरव्यू में बैठे होंगे। हमने कॉलेज की कितनी सारी कमिटीज में पार्ट लेने के लिए भी एक इंटरव्यू दिया होगा। लेकिन जैसे हम लाइफ में आगे बढ़ते हैं हमें यह समझ में आता है कि जॉब वह चीज है जिसके लिए इंटरव्यू देना सबसे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है। एंड वी नीड टू नो व्हाट इट इज, हाउ वी नीड टू excel the art of giving a successful interview. There exists various kinds of job interviews used by different companies for all kinds of job profiles that they are looking for. From face to telephonic to technical interviews to now most commonly used online or remote interview after COVID pandemic. The first and foremost in this series is face-to-face interview. It is the traditional and most common format of job interview. In it, a candidate and an interviewer meet in person physically. This kind of interview focuses on building personal rapport with the panelist and showing how your qualifications are going to help the organization. This interview is also used to check whether the CV and portfolio presented by the candidate to the company matches with the person and can the person show the skills they have got to the organization firsthand. The second kind of interview is behavioral interview. Behavioral interviews are also called competency-based interview because they check the competency. They do not check just the qualifications, but they also check how the candidate is going to behave in certain situations that they're going to face in the company if selected. It is based on a notion that candidates' previous behaviors in life and companies are the best indicators to how well they are going to behave to situations in the future. In this, candidates are asked to describe in detail how they dealt with certain situations in their past job or life, which can be similarly happening to them in future in this job, how they will react to it, how they will handle it, and will they be able to match what the company is expecting from them. अगले तरीके का इंटरव्यू है टेलीफोनिक इंटरव्यू। जैसा कि आप नाम से ही समझ गए होंगे, this is an interview which is conducted usually on phone calls. It is the first point of contact between the candidate and the company. It is often used for shortlisting the candidates, which will be later invited for face to face interviews. These kind of interviews are generally short and direct, and they are asked usually by the HR or somebody from the recruitment in the company to know about the CV and resume, and through that about the personality of the candidate. इसके बेसिस पे ही नेक्स्ट राउंड के लिए उनको सिलेक्ट किया जाता है, इसीलिए इसके ऊपर फोकस करना बहुत जरूरी है। अगले तरीके का इंटरव्यू है पैनल इंटरव्यू। कई कई बार इंटरव्यू एक सिंगल पर्सनैलिटी हमसे लेती है, एक सिंगल इंटरव्यूअर होता है, कई बार एक ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल होते हैं, एक पैनल होता है। इट इज व्हेन two or more people interview you at the same time, asking you multiple questions. Panel members can include potential supervisors, managers, team members, HR specialists, technical experts, and other decision making members in the company. HR और इन सब का एक पैनल में होने का गोल ये है that they try to see the candidate from different point of views and to minimize the risk of a bad hire, because everybody knows who they are selecting and therefore they can expect that the resultant would be a candidate suitable for the job. सबसे जरूरी इंटरव्यूज में से होता है एक टेक्निकल इंटरव्यू। It is used to assess candidates' technical abilities and capabilities for the job profile they have applied for. Through this kind of interview, candidates' depth and breadth of knowledge in the chosen field is checked. The questions of this interview normally focus on candidates' problem solving and creative thinking capabilities that will help them to deal with technical situations and challenges faced in the job. It is usually conducted through either computer based tests or on site experiences to check how the candidate will behave in real life circumstances when faced with technical expertise questions. The next kind of interview is stress interview. इंटरव्यू देते समय ही सिर्फ स्ट्रेस नहीं होता, इस तरीके का एक इंटरव्यू भी एग्जिस्ट करता है जो चेक करता है कि एक कैंडिडेट स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशंस को कैसे डील करता है, कैसे मैनेज करता है। It is used to find how candidates will respond to aggressive, embarrassing, insulting, and negotiating situations. It involves multiple questions meant to put a candidate in an uncomfortable situation, which helps the employers to know how the candidate will be reacting and dealing with such situations. आपको शायद ये बोल दिया जाए कि अगर एक कंपनी का किसी और कंपनी के साथ कोई इशू हो जाएगा, how are you going to manage it? If another employee is going to be rude to you, going to raise their voice, what are the correct ways of you handling the situation? It is used to assess how the candidate will be responding to stressful situations, and under extreme pressure, how will they be performing in the company. The next kind of interviews, and the most popular ones these days, especially after COVID pandemic, which became necessary, are online interviews. They're also called video interviews, they're called remote interviews, and they have now taken the place of traditional face to face interviews. These days, most interviews are conducted online, and the final stages are usually left for the face to face interview. They're also known as digital interview because digital platforms are used, and they're primarily defined by the technology or the platform being utilized to conduct these interviews. They're conducted remotely, as the name suggests, through online chat, video, or audio platforms. In such kind of interviews, employees can conduct it in various ways. It can be a live video interview where a panel will be sitting in front of you and you will be answering their questions. It can be a video resume where you talk about your own resume and send it to them. It can be a pre recorded video as well. Skill assessment can also be done through these interviews by giving you various situations and you answering and responding to them. There are live chats as well, and there are other mediums that are used by the companies to check different aspect of a candidate who is sitting remotely to check their suitability for the job. It is how we will be looking at interviews in future as well, because in the future, in the times to come, online interviews will become the backbone of how candidates are recruited for particular jobs. For a successful job interview, we need to follow certain practices that will help us to ace the interview. These are some of the tips that we need to always keep in our mind for a successful and effective interview. अगर हम इन सब चीज़ों का ध्यान रखेंगे, इन सब बातों पर फोकस करेंगे और कुछ ना कुछ काम करेंगे, हमें यह विश्वास हो सकता है कि हम अगला इंटरव्यू क्लियर करेंगे ही करेंगे. It begins with researching the industry and organization that we have applied the job for. Always keep in mind that you need to know about the company. What has the company achieved in the past few years? What are the key areas of expertise in the company? Which all are the competitors of the company in the market? ये ज़रूरी है क्योंकि कई बार इंटरव्यू के दौरान हमसे ये पूछा जाता है कि आप इस कंपनी के बारे में क्या सोचते हैं. We need to have a clear understanding of the job that we have applied for. उसकी क्या स्पेसिफिकेशंस हैं, उसकी क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं, क्या स्किल्स उसके लिए ज़रूरी हैं. इसके लिए हम अपने दोस्तों से बात कर सकते हैं जो इस जॉब में हैं, कुछ लोगों की प्रोफाइल चेक कर सकते हैं जो इस जॉब को कर रहे हैं, सर्च कर सकते हैं इंटरनेट पर. ये ज़रूरी क्यों है? बिकॉज उसी से हमें पता चलेगा कि हमारे सेलिंग पॉइंट्स क्या हैं. Which are the skills that we as an individual possess for the job that we have applied for. वो 5 या 6 स्किल्स जो कि हमारे अंदर हैं, जो इस जॉब को चाहिए, वो हमें पता होने चाहिए. We need to focus on why you want and deserve this job. अगर हमें यही नहीं पता होगा कि हमने क्यों अप्लाई किया है इस जॉब के लिए या इस जॉब की हमें ज़रूरत क्यों है, तो हम ऐसे आंसर्स भी नहीं दे पाएंगे जो इंटरव्यूअर को दिखाए कि हमें ये जॉब चाहिए. सो ऑलवेज कीप योर आई ऑन व्हाई यू वांट दिस जॉब एंड व्हाई यू डिजर्व दिस जॉब. We always need to be ready with our documents. Always keep the originals with you. Your resume should always be with you. Copies of your resume and your document should always be with you. Photographs should always be with you. All of these things need to be carried with you at all times during an interview. That shows that you have come prepared. Always think positive. Never let go of the fact that it is just an interview. Your negative thoughts can hamper your skills, can hamper your presentation at the time of interview. Keep positive thoughts in your mind, listen to music that you like, play with your cousins or your friends or online, talk to your family members, keep them also aware of what you are doing. That will help in boosting up your confidence, which is very much required when anxiety takes over during or before the interview. This will keep you calm and controlled. Now we come to the technical aspects of job interviews and the practices that we need to follow to ace them. We need to be prepared for some common interview questions. वह questions जो almost हर interview में हमसे पूछे जाते हैं. From tell me about yourself, introducing yourself, why do you need this job, what are your expectations from the job. All of these questions needs to be in our mind on our tips at all times. We also need to anticipate the interviewer's concern and reservations. At times, the interviewer asks you, क्या तुम छोड़ तो नहीं दोगे ये जॉब once you get a better offer? Your answer should never be no. You should answer should be, sir, my concern right now is getting this job and putting in my efforts for the betterment of company and myself, and I will work upon that. Also, keep in mind to line up a few questions for the interviewer as well. At times after the interview ends, they ask you, do you have any queries? You either compliment them for their behavior, for their questions, that you liked the interview, or you ask them something as to what kind of a candidate the company is looking for, the ideal candidate. For all of these things, you need to practice. Practice is the key. You can practice as much as you like, as you want. You can practice with your friends, conduct a mock interview. You can prepare for the questions and then answer them by looking at the mirror. The different ways, but never err on the side of error. Always rehearse for the interview. Be assertive and take responsibility for the interview. Always put yourself there. Do not be passive, but be an active participant of the interview. Say that you have said what you have said for a reason and not just because you wanted to. Speak the right body language. Interview is also about how you present yourself, not just what you say. So all of these things needs to be in focus as well. We will talk about it in the later part of this particular unit. And last but not the least, never give up. An unsuccessful interview is not the end of it. An unsuccessful interview is a road for betterment to a successful interview that will come later. In any interview, etiquette is of prime importance. How are we presenting yourself? What kind of behavior we are presenting to the panel is very important. Etiquette can be defined simply as the grand set of all good manners that needs to be followed in each situation. In this case, it is a job interview. It constitutes the language, both verbal as well as non-verbal, which is used to relate to your respect and your consideration for others during an interaction. In a professional job interview setup, this becomes a key marker of whether we will be selected or not in an interview. हमें हमेशा इन बातों का ध्यान रखना होगा कि एक इंटरव्यू में हम सिर्फ अपनी क्वालिफिकेशंस की वजह से नहीं हैं और उसी के बेसिस के ऊपर नहीं चेक किए जा रहे हैं। हम एक इंटरव्यू में उन सब चीज़ों के बारे में चेक किए जा रहे हैं जिनसे एज अ पर्सन हमारे बारे में पता चले। उसके लिए हमें एटिकेट के बारे में जानना, उन हैबिट्स को फॉलो करना और अपने अंदर अपनाना बहुत ज़रूरी है। बिफोर द इंटरव्यू से हम शुरू करते हैं एटिकेट, वो चीज़ें जो हमें इंटरव्यू में पहुंचने से पहले ज़रूरी चाहिए। शुरुआत चाहे वो ब्रश करने से हो, यूजिंग अ माउथ वॉश, वी शुड हैव क्लीन एंड कॉम्ड हेयर, आवर नेल्स शुड बी क्लीन एंड ट्रिम्ड, we need to be conservative in how we look, but we always need to side at the air of caution. Because हमें अपनी कंपनी में, जिस कंपनी में हमने इंटरव्यू देने जाना है, वहाँ कैसे अपने आप को प्रेजेंट करना है, उस पर भी ध्यान देना होगा. If the company does not have a dress code, remember that it's better to overdress than underdress. Usually professional setups के अंदर formal wear is what we go with, especially during an interview. For men, it is a suit with a tie and formal shoes. For women, it is usually also a suit, at times skirts with shoes or bellies, and nicely trimmed, nicely kept hair. These are the things that we always need to be, considerate of while we are going for an interview. For this, follow this behavioral etiquette, these different senses of our body and how we need to cater to them for preparing an interview presentation. Visually, we always need to dress properly as well as smartly. Our body language should have an appropriate behavior of respect for others and a presentation that tells about the person we are. We always need to be actively hearing what is being told to us by the interviewers, by the other members in the committee while we are submitting our documents, and we need to be attentive of what they are saying. We listen to them first, think about it, and then answer. We always need to look for the touches that are included in a job interview, from a proper handshake of 3 to 5 seconds, not exceeding that, to sitting properly in a job interview, not cross legged, not keeping your hands on the table, not constantly using your hands, showing that you are stressful. Do not do that. Meeting and greeting and then exiting. These are the three things that will tell how you are behaving tactile in this particular job interview. You need to be professional, you need to greet everybody while you enter, you need to be graceful while you sit down, you need to give right salutations to everybody, and while you exit, you need to thank them and then depart gracefully. Olfactory. As we mentioned, you need to always smell present and subtle. Do not use deodorants and perfumes that are very sharp. Always use which are subtle and mild in their fragrance. There are certain tips that always needs to be followed in our behavior while we are appearing for an interview. These are some of the do's that needs to be done at all situations if one is preparing and appearing for an interview. Sit up straight and lean slightly forward in your chair. Always show your enthusiasm by keeping an interested expression. Do not go dull. Establish a comfortable amount of personal space between you and the interviewer. Need to know that there is a boundary between the two of you that never should be breached. Limit your application of colognes and perfumes. Keep it subtle, as mentioned before. While you are in the process of interviewing, try to address all panelists with your gaze and return your attention to the person who has asked you the question. If there is a panel, we need to be attentive to each panelist, listen to them and answer them. And if we are answering one person, the answer is for the entire panel. So always look at them, greet them, look properly. We need to refrain from staring at the interviewer. The do's is refrainment. That always know where to stop looking and move away. We need to motion our willingness to leave if they need privacy. This is especially important while we have completed the interview. We need to know when to exit. We need to know when they start talking too much between themselves. That is the time for us to leave, but we need to ask them and then make. After the do's of behavioral etiquette, we come to the don'ts. As much as we need to know what we need to behave like, we need to know more about what kind of behaviors are unacceptable in a job interview. These are one of the very few interview behavioral etiquette that never should be followed in an interview. Because if you do them, you are erring on the side of rejection. We should never be rubbing our face or head or neck. Do not touch your nose again and again. Do not sit with your arms folded across the chest. Do not cross your legs and shake them idly over the other, because that is a sign of anxiety and that will give a signal to the interviewer. Never lean your body towards the door on your own. Always stand straight and give the impression that you're interested and attentive. Never stare back blindly and blankly to the interviewer. Answer the question, put your head down, put your eyes down, and then wait for another question. Never bite your lips or nails while you are in an interview or waiting for an interview, because that is a bad impression that you are presenting of yourself. Never cross your arms or put them on the table. You are there for the interview, you are not at the table on the side of the experts. Do not clear your throat repeatedly. If you feel like you are getting dry on your throat, ask them if you can have a sip of water and then go ahead with it. Put your hands in pocket. No, never do that. It is a formal setup. In a formal setup, you put your hand over your thighs. That is the way in which you need to be sitting. A straight posture that will let them know that you're attentive and interested in the job. during the interview. After preparing for the interview, we need to know what we need to do in an interview. You need to make a positive and professional first impression. As the old saying goes, first impression is the last impression. We need to be very prepared for those first 5 minutes of our job interview, where first we introduce ourselves, we greet the interviewers, we have the salutations. We always need to know what kind of introduction needs to be. Very important there. We need to listen to interviewer's name and correct pronunciation and address the interviewer by title. There is a very simple method through which you can do that. It's a very simple method. First, you take the name of the person while you are being introduced to them. Secondly, you use the name of the person in a sentence. And then thirdly, if somebody else is asking you about that person, you first name the person and then address them. These three steps will make you remember the name of those people who are interviewing you. And in that sense, your impression will be that you are attentive. Always smile. Do not show off your hesitancy to the interviewer because that is a sign that you are not very strong in how you handle situations. Stay calm, stay cool, never lose your temper. Handle difficult situations, especially during stress interviews. You always never need to lose your control. You need to maintain good eye contact during the interview. As was mentioned before, this is one thing, eye contact, that will show whether you're interested and attentive. Take the interview seriously. It is a serious matter. Always show that you are here for the work to be done, for the job to be accepted by them for you. So take it seriously. Listen and pause before answering the question. These are the skills that are required if you are going to go for an interview where you succeed. Take some time to understand the question. If you do not understand the question, ask the interviewer again if they can repeat the question. Then answer it strongly but concisely. Take notes of specific points during an interview. If you got to know about something new during an interview or something that you do not know about an interview question, write it down to show that you are interested in knowing more about things. Avoid cracking jokes with the interviewer. Be serious. Back up your answers about specific questions with particular examples whenever possible. A situation needs to be in your mind of your past experience, of your past life, of something that is coming up your mind that you can back your answer with. Ask for clarification if you do not understand. Do not go blankly that no, I have not understand, I will still say my words. No, never do that. Be thorough in your responses but concise in your wordings. Your answer needs to be crisp, it needs to be clear, it needs to be to the point, but it need not be like an essay. It needs to be like a short answer that fulfills the purpose. Communicate effectively by speaking clearly and avoiding, slang, hmm, giving a pause, many pauses. No. Always be clear in your mind. Take one pause in the beginning of the answer to frame what you're going to speak about. And after that, do not stop until the answer is finished. Do not take errors and different ways to avoid answering the question. Once the interview is done and you have made the impression felt to the interviewer, it is time for the etiquette that needs to be followed after the interview. हमें ये याद रखना है कि एक इंटरव्यू खत्म होने के बाद भी हमारे को जज किया जा रहा है, हमारे को एक्सेस किया जा रहा है for that particular job. Shake each interviewer's hand and thank each interviewer by name. Use that strategy as was mentioned before. Name them for the first time, use their name in an answer, and use their name in an answer to another interviewer. Exit the room gracefully with a positive attitude, straight, not bending over the door, always being attentive. Sending a thank you note to the interviewers after the interview is over. Very important. If you're going to make an impression, always follow this step. Knowing their name, find their IDs, Give them a thank you email or a thank you note in person if you find them somewhere else. Ask them if there is a visiting card of them available. Let them know that you enjoyed the interview, that you learned something new, and you're looking forward for the job. Follow up is always necessary. You always need to keep a check on what is happening to your interview. If you're going to get the job, when are you going to get the job? Let go of the negatives. If you feel you have said or done something wrong during the interview, let it go. Interview is done. You need not be anxious and stressful about it now. It is a job which you have done completely fine, and now you await for the result and prepare better for the next ones if at all you need it. And as I always say to my students, be prepared and not scared. An interview is just a step, it is not the end. It will make you reach where you wish to. So do not be scared and be well prepared for any interview that you face in your life ahead. Thank you.